June 25, 1950. The United Nations Allied forces crossed the 155-mile demarcation line on the 38th parallel, dividing north from south, sacrificing their lives in unrelenting battle in a bid to bring Korea the gift of freedom. After the adoption of the United Nations Security Council resolution, the brave men of the Allied forces under the command of General Douglas MacArthur threw themselves unreservedly into the rain of fire that fell upon them. In support of the South Korean army came soldiers from Greece, South Africa, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Luxembourg, Belgium, Ethiopia, the United States, Great Britain, Australia, Canada, Colombia, Turkey, Thailand, the Philippines and France under the United Nations command, Denmark, Germany, Norway, Italy, India and Sweden provided medical support to heal the war wounded. And 41 other countries around the world sent needed supplies to South Korea, which had been stripped bare by war. Once war broke out, it seemed that no one would escape the carnage. The long days of war saw 600,000 Korean military casualties, with more than 500,000 from the UN forces killed or wounded. The blood of 2 million Korean citizens stained the valleys and mountains. The bodies of some 150,000 soldiers killed in action that could not be repatriated are remembered with the blossoming of the flowers each spring.
Thanks to every mother's son who fought for each and every one, showing that, despite the pain, their valiant efforts were not in vain.
Though their voices are silent, their names are remembered with respect.
It's very sad to see them, and yet I think it was in a good cause for the liberation of South Korea, for the prevention of the North Korean communists and the Chinese communists, and perhaps even the Russians from overwhelming the Korean peninsula and bringing disaster to the Far East.
Under such protection, Korea has flourished, owing to the courage of heroic men and women who sought to safeguard its freedom, the courage of those who made the final sacrifice. Korea now shines brightly in the world.
Together we'll build a world that's new, that's fit for kings and fit for queens. I greet all men with a loving heart. I'll speak the truth with a clear voice.
대한민국의 자유와 평화를 위해 참전했던 22개국 유엔
22 nations came to help protect Korea's freedom, democracy, their sacrifices and gallantry in the face of war made today's Korea possible. As we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War. We cannot forget the history of the sacrifices, the dedication, but especially the importance of the gallant efforts played by the veterans. We will now offer floral tributes to commemorate and remember the Korean War veterans. The first floral tributes will be given by ambassadors, consular representatives, and attachés of nations that participated in the Korean War. Honorable Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ethiopia, Shifero Shigute Wolasa, and his wife. From Thailand, the Thailand Air Attaché, Captain Tana Tipawase. The Consul Maria Liza Viejo of the Philippines. The Bolivian Consul Ronald Jose Iriarte. And from Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leonean Vice Ambassador Dr. Joe Favia Numa. These are the representatives of nations who came to the assistance of Korea. Let us put our hearts together as the representatives of the various nations offer their floral tributes. Thank you very much. The second floral tribute will be offered by representative veterans and leaders of the Korean War Veterans Association. Lee Sun-min, Chair of the UN Peace Corps, Reverend Yoo Jae-shik, President of the Korean War Veterans Association, and Reverend Kang Gu-gon, Mr. Kim Soo-won-woo, Mr. Lee Young-hee, Mr. Lee Jae-yoon, Mr. Park Hyung-jun, and Mr. Lee Chun-se. Thank you. The third floral tribute will be offered by 10 religious leaders representing people of faith all over the world. Reverend Kim Soo-man, Reverend Lee Gi-sung, Venerable Chi-won, the Chairman Kim Dong-wook, the Venerable Kang Dae-bong, Chairman Yang Yeon-ho, and also Mr. Shin Hye-won, Chair Lee Chang-gu, and the Venerable Sang San, and Chairman Im Bu-hee. 10 religious leaders representing all of the various faiths around the world are offering their floral tributes. Thank you very much. We really are grateful for paying tribute to the fallen patriots and veterans. Let us all offer a moment of silence for the veterans. have the welcoming addresses for the Rally of Hope. The first welcoming address will be offered by Dr. Thomas Walsh, Chair of the Universal Peace Federation. Let us welcome Dr. Thomas Walsh.
It is my high honor and privilege to share a few words with you at the outset of this third Rally of Hope. Today's rally, being viewed by millions, commemorates the 70th anniversary of the Korean War and honors those veterans who served during that conflict, which is sometimes known as the Forgotten War. It is estimated that the war caused 3 million fatalities and brought about the complete devastation of the infrastructure of the peninsula. Indeed, without the intervention of the United Nations Security Council that set up a security command consisting of a 16-nation peace force, the Republic of Korea would no doubt have fallen permanently. Please understand, however, this Rally of Hope series is not merely reflecting on the suffering of the past. On the contrary, this Rally of Hope is part of UPF's global effort to establish peace on the Korean Peninsula, guided by the principles of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. This Rally of Hope works to inspire and build a global alliance across all continents dedicated to the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula and the creation of a peaceful, unified world. Toward this end, we are building a global coalition of stakeholders and peace builders representing governments, religions, civil society, business, the media, and academia, working together hand in hand with one heart and one goal, to overcome the barriers that divide us in order to create one universal family under God. Indeed, let us work to fulfill the very hope of God, our Heavenly Parent. Please join us. Thank you very much.
The second welcoming address will be delivered by President George Weah of Liberia. President George Weah is a world-renowned superstar, not just in the field of soccer, but also in politics. He was also the African Footballer of the Year in 1989, 94, 95, and 96, and won the Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year awards in 1995. President Weah showed great talent not only in soccer, but also in politics, entering the political world in 2014 as the Senator of Montserrado County. He was elected as the 25th president in 2017 through his outstanding political sense and deep dedication to the people of Liberia. Let us welcome His Excellency President Weah of Liberia with a warm round of applause.
Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I extend warm greetings on behalf of the government and people of the Republic of Liberia and in my own name to the people of Korea and to viewers in nations around the world who have joined this rally of hope dedicated to the peaceful reunification of Korea. It is an honor for me to have been invited to share a few words with you today. For this important occasion, Korea has been a divided nation since the beginning of the Korean War many years ago. My own country, Liberia, and several other countries in the West African region have known the suffering, the destruction, and the devastation caused by war and division. And that is why we cherish peace and pray that all peoples of the world will be able to live peacefully together and enjoy the promise and prosperity of peace. It is my fervent hope and prayer that soon there will be a reunification of Korea. Many lives were lost during the Korean War, including soldiers from throughout the world. For their sake, we should all strive for peace and unification so that their ultimate sacrifice will not be in vain. I now salute the Universal Peace Federation, which is a leading force for peace in today's world. It has taken initiatives through conferences and summits dedicated to peace. I can recall with gratitude that the Universal Peace Federation has worked in Liberia after our Civil War by taking part in post-conflict peace-building efforts with the Liberian legislature, of which I was then a senator of Moserado County. It is therefore with great pleasure that I find myself today in the position to participate in the current rally of hope. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my gratitude to the creator of the Universal Peace Federation, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, who is a courageous champion for peace through interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. I believe the Universal Peace Federation stands in a central position to help resolve the crisis on the Korean Peninsula. Among other things, I know that the Universal Peace Federation understands the importance of interreligious dialogue and has been a strong supporter and partner in supporting the work of the United Nations, the African Union, and ECOWAS. I welcome the involvement of the Universal Peace Federation in my country. The partnership between government and civil society is extremely important as we work to address problems of poverty, food security, economic development, education, and strengthening the family. I want to emphasize once again the importance of peace. We are living through challenging times. If we work together, we can make a difference and we can achieve the great hope for peace that the people of the world long for and deserve. I thank you for your attention.
깊은 계곡
Next, we will have two congratulatory addresses. Two eminent leaders will offer congratulatory addresses. The first is the former U.S. Representative Charles Rangel, who is a veteran of the Korean War and a prominent U.S. statesman. He received the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star Medal for his bravery in the Battle of Cheongcheong River, despite being injured during the fight. Let us welcome Representative Charles Rangel, a Korean War veteran and a true statesman, with a warm round of applause.
I want to especially thank Mother Moon for the sacrifices she had made to bring the parliamentarian and religious leaders, world leaders together to pause and to pray and to work toward peace. And especially my dear friend, Dan Burton, who I served with in the United States House of Representatives. But this is especially important, not only for the world and the United States of America, for me personally, that you have selected this war in Korea. And I hesitate to say war because in June of 1950, I served in the Army with the 2nd Infantry Division, and we were advised by our Commander-in-Chief, President Harry Truman, that the United Nations were going to, not to war, but to a police action to stop the invasion of the communists into South Korea. Most of us had no idea as to what that meant. But I can tell you this, we went from Busan to the Naktong to the 38th parallel, past Pyongyang, and we stayed on the borders of the Yalu River. To our complete surprise, we were surrounded by tens of thousands of Chinese. It was a massacre, and only a handful of the soldiers in my unit were able to survive it. Some were captured, others wounded, but many of us were just left dead. Annually, we would communicate with each other, and as the years passed by, our number dwindled. And why this is important is because so many of you have come together not to talk about war, but to lay down the swords and to talk about peace. Because as we talked about November 30th, it was a nightmare. Nobody who ever witnessed tens of thousands of enemies clashing with United Nations forces, hearing the moans, the sound of the bugles, the sight of the horses. I was wounded and left for dead and survived. And when I left Korea, I said to myself, I never want to return to this situation that brought so much misery and pain to me. But over the years, as I served in the Congress and visited the great leaders in South Korea, was able to see that the country that I left, that was reduced to ashes and hopelessness and pain, how it grew out of these ashes to become a symbol of democracy, freedom, economic expansion, an ally to the great United States of America. And so being able not to talk about war today, but 70 years later to talk about peace is so important. Congratulations for your great work. God bless all of you, and thank you so much for this humbling opportunity.
This congratulatory address will be given by Honorable Christopher Hill, the former U.S. ambassador to Korea, who has contributed greatly to diplomacy in Korea. On February 14, 2005, he was appointed as the head of the U.S. delegation to the six-party talks on the issue of North Korean nuclear weapons, and the same year later, he took office as the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian Pacific Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honorable Ambassador Christopher Hill.
First of all, let me say what a great honor it is for me to stand before this very distinguished audience consisting of so many famous people from so many different walks of life, and to talk about the origins, the beginning really, of the Korean War some 70 years ago. I'd especially like to thank UPF. I'd like to thank especially Dr. Moon for her tireless efforts in raising our consciousness about this, in talking about these issues. The Korean War is one of the most bitterly fought issues of the 20th century, one of the worst wars that happened in that century of war. It has really been one of the true tragedies of the 20th century, and in a very real sense, part of the unfinished business of that 20th century. The UPF, which has done so much to raise consciousness, to deal with this issue, to try to make sure the rest of the world understands it, and understands this meaning, the meaning of it, not just for Korean people, but also for people the world over. The Korean War, of course, engaged not only the people of Korea, but Americans were very much involved as we came to the aid of our allies, the Republic of Korea. It happened because of something that was more broadly felt, and that was a division of the entire world between a communist world and a non-communist world. The Korean people were really victimized by that division, and that victimization continues until today. But it's also, I think, to lay out the fact that the United States, the Republic of Korea, and so many of its friends and allies will not accept the idea of any kind of conflict that would somehow falsely bring the Korean people together, but would rather address the issues, the root causes really, of how this happened and how this must end. I think bringing people together in events such as this Rally of Hope, I think will have a real effect in terms of making people understand that this war could indeed happen anywhere where there is misunderstanding and mistrust. It could happen anywhere where there are people who are sometimes, there's no other word for it, people who are evil, who attack people who are not evil, who have a goodness of heart and a goodness of spirit. So I do hope as we look forward, and as we look forward through this meeting, that we can continue to move forward in our understanding of what needs to be done, of how we can overcome these divisions, how we can make a world that is safe for all of us, and a world that lowers its temperature, and a world that is able to deal with some of these really, really difficult problems. To be sure, diplomacy has to play an important role, but I think every person has a role to play in trying to bridge divisions. So thank you very much. It's been a great honor to address you, to be a part of this. I want to especially once again thank Dr. Moon for her absolutely tireless efforts over the years. She knows better than many of us know the tragedy of this war. So thank you very much, and I hope this will be a very successful meeting, and it will lead to other successful meetings, and ultimately lead to the unification of this very precious peninsula. Thank you very much.
With
It is now time for the keynote addresses. Our first keynote address is by President Sahle-Work of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a nation with deep ties and alliances with South Korea as a nation that participated in the Korean War. Her Excellency Zewde is the first ever female president of Ethiopia as well as the only female president in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency President Sahle-Work of Ethiopia with a grateful round of applause.
It gives me great pleasure to take part in this rally of hope. This event cannot be more timely and appropriate in this unprecedented time of numerous complex challenges all around the world. Ethiopia is not only a founding member of the United Nations, but an ardent supporter of multilateralism and the principle of collective security enshrined in the United Nations Charter. It is because of this conviction that Ethiopia, together with 22 additional countries, responded to the call by the United Nations Security Council and deployed its forces under the Blue Helmets to restore peace and security when war broke at the Korean Peninsula 70 years ago. As we mark the 70th anniversary of the Korean War, we remember the brave men and women who fought and died during that conflict. We also pay tribute to their bravery and sacrifice in the furtherance of world peace. The historic contribution of the Ethiopian soldiers who participated in the Korean War certainly left an indelible mark in the relations between Ethiopia and the Republic of Korea. Their story will forever be remembered, and we need to keep the memory of their sacrifices alive for generations to come. The role of the brave Ethiopian soldiers played during the early days of the United Nations is testament to Ethiopia's unwavering commitment to the principle of collective security enshrined in the United Nations Charter. It is this commitment that Ethiopia continues to uphold to this day, and it is also this commitment that has made her the leading troop contributing country to the United Nations peacekeeping. Finally, in this rally of hope, let us promote a culture of peace and harmony around the world. Let us work to heal the broken trust that has fractured societies. Let us encourage facts and truth instead of hatred and bigotry. Let's also instill a sense of hope and future in our youth. Let us protect marginalized and vulnerable populations. And let us all strive to create fair, equitable, inclusive, sustainable and resilient societies. I can only hope that these lofty objectives will inspire us to do more in order to overcome our current challenges and build a better future for our peoples. I thank you.
Your Excellencies. 감사합니다, 대통령님.
Thank you, Madam President.
Ingekuwa
time for our second keynote address. Our second keynote address is former Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper. The Right Honourable Stephen Harper served from 2006 to 2016 as the 22nd Prime Minister of Canada, a nation that participated in the Korean War. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Right Honourable Stephen Harper.
Thank you for inviting me to join you once again for this, your third global Rally of Hope. This is occurring on a very special occasion. We're marking the 70th anniversary of the start of the Korean War. It's an anniversary that we commemorate with mixed emotions. On the one hand, the start of war is never something that we celebrate, even if those of us who are allies share no blame for the conflict. But the war left the Korean Peninsula divided, with the North locked in a terrible ordeal that endures to this day. Of course, there's also been much good to come out of that conflict. Against the early odds, the Allied intervention of 1950 preserved the light of freedom in the South, and it allowed a magnificent country to be built from that time forward. The Republic of Korea is today one of the most prosperous, most peaceful, and most progressive countries on the planet. Few nations have ever built so much from so little in so short a period of time. It's also fitting that given Korea's history and its sacrifice, that this is the nation that would witness the birth of the Universal Peace Federation. Under your founder and our host, a proud citizen of Korea, Dr. Hak Ja-han-moon, this organization continues to keep hope alive, not only for the reconciliation and reunification of the Korean Peninsula, but for the reconciliation and reunification of peoples around the world. And this is a message we need now more than ever. And most notably, we've witnessed one of the most unifying developments of modern times. In the Middle East, nations long and profoundly divided have put aside their differences with the signing of the Abraham Accords. They've not only achieved an unprecedented peace, they've also demonstrated that faith and the common quest for reconciliation between man and God can be a great unifier of humanity. What a tremendous development, and what an extraordinary message. But it's one that I don't have to explain to you. For this is the message and the mission of the Universal Peace Federation, of your founder and of your followers the world over. And it's one that I'm so pleased to be sharing with you today. Continue to do what you do. Look to turn this crisis into opportunity. Work at all levels in all nations, with governments, with civil society, with business, academia, and faith organizations, for peace, justice, harmony, sustainability, and prosperity, for one family blessed by and under God. Thank you once again for inviting me. Take reasonable precautions, everyone, and be well. And God bless all of you in your important work.
respected excellencies, ambassadors for peace, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to welcome the host of this third Rally of Hope for the realization of a heavenly unified world, Dr. Hakja Moon, to deliver her special address. Dr. Moon has devoted her life, a life of true love, to realizing a world of lasting peace. Dr. Hakja Moon's will to realize a world of lasting peace and to overcome the barriers of national borders, race and religion has led her to be recognized as Mother of Peace by numerous politicians, religious leaders, and civil society leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in welcoming Dr. Hakja Moon, the Mother of Peace, with a warm round of applause.
사랑하는
Beloved
전 세계 각계 지도자 여러분,
leaders from around the world,
반갑습니다.
I'm very pleased to meet you.
오늘날
Today,
세계 도처에서
all around the world,
일어나고 있는
various
예기치 못하는
unexpected and unforeseen challenges and problems are erupting, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, all around the world, various challenges in the realms of politics, the economy, and even religious strife are happening. The reality is that it is difficult to forecast what the future holds for humanity at this point. Until now, human efforts have been made to solve these problems, but we can see the limitations of human efforts alone.
지금 이 시점에서
At this point,
이
all of
모든
us
문제들을 해결하고
know that it is possible to solve these problems and look to a bright future.
그 중심에
And the key to achieving
창조주
this
하나님을
beautiful
모시는
future
운동이 일어나야 할
is to
것입니다.
recognize and to welcome our Creator, God, the Heavenly Parent, into our lives.
창조주께서는
The Creator
아름다운 지구를 창조하시고
built a beautiful earth
인간과
for
함께
humanity, and the Creator's wish was to
지상에서
live in an ideal
천국의
world,
삶을 사다
a kingdom of heaven on
영원한
earth, so that after living their
세계까지
earthly life, human beings
인류와
could ascend to the
함께
spirit world and live
살고자
in bliss and
준비하셨습니다.
harmony with the Creator.
그 말은
In other words,
창조주 하나님은
God the
인류의
Creator is
부모라는
the
말입니다.
heavenly parent of humanity.
인간의 타락은
The fall
부모와
of the human
관계없는
ancestors
자리에
severed the relationship
처해진
of parent
것이
and child
오늘의
between God and human
현실입니다.
beings. And human beings stand as
지금까지
orphans. This is the sad
잃어버린
reality of today's world.
자녀를 찾아
And
나오시는
in order to restore
구원 섭리의
and
역사를
find the
해
long-lost
오셨습니다.
children, God has initiated
그리하여
the long history of the providence of
고와
salvation,
같은 인류 앞에
so that the
메시아
orphaned
사상을
humanity could be restored.
교육해 나왔습니다.
That was the
그것이
origin
성경에서
of the
말하는
messianic
6,000년
ideology,
인류
and this
역사입니다.
is the 6,000-year history of humanity
2000년
mentioned in the Bible. The Korean Peninsula is the place where heaven's will, where humanity's wish can be realized. The winds of heavenly fortune have been blowing on the Korean peninsula. In the 1950s, the environment of Korea was truly miserable. Korea was liberated in 1945 and the Korean War erupted in 1950. As the Korean peninsula was divided into the communist north and the democratic south, the democratic government in South Korea was not yet ready to overcome a North Korean invasion. And in these circumstances, the Korean War broke out. How is it possible that a tiny nation, unknown to the rest of the world, could benefit from the participation and protection of 16 UN member nations? How incredible it is that the 16 member UN nations sent their gallant and valiant young soldiers, many of them in their teens and 20s, to come and protect Korea's freedom and democracy. The age of these gallant soldiers was a time when they were the purest and the most courageous. The young men and women who came to aid Korea's freedom and democracy were truly the children of God. What wind of the providence brought them here to Korea? These young veterans came to Korea's help to protect peace, to protect freedom in Korea. We can see through this that God the Creator is working with us. I would like to thank the 16 UN member nations who sent troops to Korea, but I also wish to thank all of the nations that provided medical aid, material support to all of these 63 nations. I know that in the majority of the 16 nations, there are memorials that have been built already. However, not all nations have full registries of all the veterans of the Korean War. And I wish to remember the names of each and every veteran. I wish that posterity can remember forever the name of each veteran. And also, I wish that posterity can take inspiration from these veterans. And in nations where there are no memorials, I would like to initiate a project where the Universal Peace Federation builds memorials in each of these nations. That is my offering and pledge to you today. We are filled with hope because heaven is working with us. We are called to really thank heaven for the many depths of gratitude we owe heaven, and we cannot pass on what we can accomplish in our generation to future generations. That is why today, this rally of hope reminds me of 70 years ago when the Korean Peninsula saw the outbreak of a terrible war, and heaven mobilized forces around the world to come and protect democracy and freedom in Korea. And it is thanks to the gallant and valiant efforts of these war veterans that today's Korea is possible. Looking at this clear example of heaven's intervention, we can see that the time has come for humanity to come together in unity and harmony and receive true parents' blessing and receive the recognition of heaven as God's beloved sons and daughters. This is the only path that humanity can usher in a future filled with hope and happiness. This is my earnest message. This is my message to you and to the future. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in offering another round of applause to Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon for her inspiring message. Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon gave a moving address, and in her address she mentioned that all nations that participated in the Korean War that do not have memorials will have memorials built through UPF, and also people around the world we are going to build an online memorial as well. And beginning today, we prepared this special memorial, and that is why we would like to give you a brief introduction of what the online memorial looks like. Korea owes a big debt of gratitude to the world. Until now, we could not properly thank the world. Now the time has come for this nation, for this people, to fulfill its responsibility to the world. In 2020, on November 2020, an online memorial will be opened. And this is a place for you to visit the various memorials around the world. You can offer messages of gratitude, you can share social media messages, and also you can see the various contents of the Little Angels tour 10 years ago. Please don't forget to log in to rememberkrwar.org. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we would like to have a special concert by the Little Angels. This is a concert of gratitude to thank the nations that supported Korea during the outbreak of the Korean War. 10 years ago, the Little Angels toured 22 nations around the world and conveyed their hearts of gratitude to really thank all of the Korean War veterans. They really conveyed the heart of gratitude we all have for one another. And now we, the Little Angels, have prepared a special performance to thank once again all of the nations who supported Korea. And also, the Little Angels will express their heart of hope for the peaceful reunification of the Korean peninsula, a peninsula that remains divided 70 years after the outbreak of the war. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Little Angels as we begin this special concert of gratitude. angels will now offer special bouquets of flowers to all of the representatives of the different nations, as well as the Korean War veterans. Now, the various members of the diplomatic corps of Korea, as well as Korean War veterans, will make their way to the stage to receive special bouquets of flowers and tokens of gratitude by the little angels. With an unchanging heart, 70 years ago, we will always remember the love, we will always remember the sacrifices that brought you to come and defend the freedom and the democracy of Korea. The little angels are offering flowers to express our gratitude. Let us give another round of applause to all of the representatives of the various nations that came to support Korea, and also to all of the surviving Korean War veterans currently being brought on stage. True gratitude is to always express our wish for unity, the realization of unity. We will end today's rally by singing Our Wish is for Unity. Let us sing the song of unity together. Let us welcome Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon once again with a warm round of applause. Let us all sing together the song of unity. Once again, let us thank Dr. Hak Ja-han Moon, the Mother of Peace, for hosting us today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please be safe, and thank you for joining today's program. Thank you very much.